Hello, I'm going to offer you a few ways today to help you to break free from self-soothing as an emotional crutch. Okay. If you are doing things to excess, if you're finding ways to avoid your thoughts or your feelings, or avoiding taking certain decisions or avoiding taking certain actions, if you found an action to replace that which kind of works, if you find a habit which momentarily distracts you from yourself and makes you feel a little bit easier, let's say, a bit of relief. It might be a compulsion, it might be an addiction, it could just be something that at the moment you're doing a bit too much, but it kind of immediately brings a sense of relief. It may afterwards bring a sense of guilt or regret or shame even. But to begin with, one of the things that it's quite important to understand is that you're winning by doing that avoidance strategy. Whatever the self-soothing is, it's working to a certain extent. Okay, that's why you're doing it. It's like a way of rewarding yourself. So, but the critical point is that it is an emotional crutch. So, in a way, you might want to look at that avoidance strategy, be it, shopping, gambling, biting your fingernails, smoking, drinking, going out to excess. There's 1,001 things that if you choose to do so, you could use as an avoidance strategy. But whatever they are a little bit like, you've broken your knee and you're using a bandage, a plaster, to try and fix it. Okay. The avoidance strategy is not the knee. The avoidance strategy is the plaster. So the avoidance strategy is only the symptom. The cause is somewhere behind. Okay. So if you try and address all of your efforts on beating the symptom, even if it works, you're not addressing the need. So I might help someone in hypnosis to stop biting their fingernails, okay? But if there is a need behind to self-soothe, well, then they're just going to transfer that activity to something else instead. So it's absolutely essential to address the need. So there's not much point in guilt tripping yourself as to, oh, well, I must try harder, I must try harder. Because I've done another video in actual fact that was specifically on willpower. You might want to look at that. I did that right at the beginning of the year, so it's the name is more linked with New Year's resolutions, but it's basically about willpower. Because the point is, your willpower is finite. Your willpower is like a pot, okay? The pot is only full in the first place if you are well rested, well fed, and your physiology is fit. You exercise a lot. That's the only way to actually fill the pot. And then every single time that you use your willpower, you are depleting it. And once it's gone, and then you'll build it up again the next day after you've gone to sleep, after you've fed, after maybe you've gone out in nature or whatever it may be. But the point is, it's a scarce commodity. So you only want to use your willpower in very small amounts, very, very tailored, pointed efforts that are digestible, that are small enough that you might actually beat it with your willpower. Because otherwise, if you just get depleted, it doesn't work. One of the things that people tend to do is they tend to overestimate what they can do in the short term, and then they kind of get defeated, and it depletes their energy even more. We have this habit. We tend to overestimate what we can do in the short term, and then underestimate what we can do in the long term. So it can be a demoralizing, is what I'm saying, just trying to use your willpower to attack a symptom. The most important thing to do is to attack the cause. So how do you attack the cause? Okay. So the first thing that you can do actually is look at the symptom as your friend. So every single time that you suddenly find yourself wanting to reach for internet shopping or social media or a glass of beer or whatever it may be, there is a need which is driving that. So every single time this compulsion comes up, this desire to avoid a thought, a feeling, an action, all you need to do in actual fact is notice when that occurs and ask yourself, okay, what is it that I'm supposed to be doing right now? Or what is it that I'm beginning to think or feel? So your avoidance strategy is a perfect pointer to the thing that you're trying to avoid. That's the cause. That's what needs to be addressed, okay? Now, obviously, by doing the avoidance strategy, you don't want to go there, right? So there is an element of every single time that I avoid this, I'm not entirely avoiding it because it keeps coming back. And so that's almost working, but it's never going to completely work. So what can I do instead? There has to be a choice to stare whatever this is in the face. And that does take courage, but it can also be done through, cynicism, through resignation to, okay, well, that's not working. Let's try this instead. But if you lean into it, if you lean into whatever it is that is painful and understand it, well, then you can start to address the root causes, which is the way forward. So that might be a little tricky. That might be something that you need a bit of stability in order to begin to address. So if so, there are ways that you can start to control the compulsion, the habit, the avoidance strategy, the self-pacifying strategy, whatever it may be. So let's go down this track first of all of willpower. So, okay, you have a finite amount of willpower. If you're well rested, well fed, your physiology is robust, you're fit, then you're likely to have a reasonable amount of willpower. But every single time you use it, you're depleting it, and it only gets replenished by resting or eating or connecting with nature or something like that, something to make you physically strong again. So you want to address that willpower only to something which is extremely important and something which is bite-sized, something which is potentially possible for you to beat. So just pick a very, very small element of whatever this habit is in order to make a difference. And if you can do that every day for 30 days or longer, then that'll start to have an impact. Another way that you might want to consider controlling a compulsion is rather than batting it away completely or making it like your enemy number one, you might want to suggest to yourself when the need comes up, rather than saying you won't do it, simply say, okay, I'm not going to do it right now. I'll do it tomorrow. Okay. If I still want to do it tomorrow, I'll do it tomorrow. Or if I still want to do it in 3 or 4 hours time, I'll do it then. Because you see, the thing is, the need isn't real. The need is attached to a fear or a pain point, something that you're trying to avoid. And then the thing that you think you need is a solution to that pain point. And most emotions ebb and flow. So if you simply postpone it by even half an hour, the need will have gone because the pain point will have shifted. So rather than telling yourself you won't, because you get massive internal resistance when you try and tell yourself you won't do something that you want to do. It's like staring at the forbidden fruit and trying to use your willpower to not do it. Instead, you simply say to yourself, well, this is not really the moment. If I still want to do this evening, I'll do it. Yeah, that's something like that. Because I promise you, if you use that as a strategy, when this evening comes, you won't want to do it curiously. So that's another one that you can do. A third way that you might want to grapple with the compulsion side, the solution side, the symptom side, is when you notice that need arising, this feeling coming up, okay? Maybe you're supposed to be getting on with work and suddenly this desperate need to do anything but that comes up, the urge to procrastinate, to avoid. Rather than engaging in the compulsive habit, in whatever it is that you're doing to excess, you might instead honor the fact that you don't want to think or feel or do whatever it is that you're currently grappling with. And so simply do nothing. And so permit yourself, honor that feeling and say, all right, I'm either going to lean into it, think about it, feel it, or get on with whatever it is that I'm supposed to be doing, or I'm going to do nothing. Now, that takes a little bit of will because you're not doing the symptom, the pacifying strategy. But because the need is transitory, if you simply tell yourself, okay, the need is to avoid, so I'll avoid, I'll do nothing. Instead of engaging in the avoidance strategy, it actually rapidly becomes pretty boring to do nothing. It starts to become frustrating to do nothing. So you're kind of making a pact with yourself that you will honor the underlying feeling, but you're not going to engage in the pacifying strategy, which doesn't really work anyway. It kind of works a little bit and then it fails. And then it tends to bring on this sort of bad feeling in the background as well. So that can be very, very useful. Another way that can be incredibly useful, but that takes a little bit of time, is you can shift your physiology. Okay, so most emotional states are attached to a physiology. If I tell you to imagine a time when you were incredibly fulfilled, or incredibly confident, or incredibly at ease, or incredibly positive, and you can remember that moment, if you observe what your physiology was like in that moment and you adopt that for a couple of minutes, you will feel that way. It's extraordinary. So if there is a avoidance strategy coming on you, okay, the urge to go and do whatever it is, if instead you get out the chair, or you go outside, you put your shoes on and you go and walk for 10 minutes, or you do some press ups, some kind of running on the spot, or some breathing exercises, almost anything that shifts your physiology. 5 minutes later, 10 minutes later, that need is completely gone. You shift your emotional state by shifting your physiology probably faster than any other way. Okay, so that can work incredibly well. So these are loads of ways of managing the need in the moment. Okay, so you use your willpower, but only on something very, very small, very, very tiny chunk. You postpone the need rather than prohibiting the need. You do nothing at all instead of doing the pacifying strategy, but you stroke the need to do nothing. Okay, or you shift your physiology, you put your shoes on and you go outside. They can all work. Okay, but they're all ways of managing to some extent a pacifying need. They're not addressing the cause underneath. Okay, how do you address the cause underneath? For me personally, well, there's two ways to do it. Okay, one is you simply go to the need. Yeah, so you sit with yourself in a quiet state and you address the need. You can even talk to the need if that is meaningful to you, and you can ask it what it wants, and you can use resources that you have inside of yourself to find better ways to address the need. Okay, that is number one. But another way that can be quite illuminating, quite helpful, is appealing to your higher self. Now, everybody's definition of what their higher self is going to be different. But if there are things that you aspire to do or be, ways of acting, ways of living, ways of shining from the inside, that you would love to act like, and that maybe this compulsive habit or addiction or pacifying thing is dragging you in the opposite direction from. So if you can understand what that higher purpose is, that higher self, that aspiration. Then what you can do is you can use the need to pacify as a pointer towards this higher aspiration. So you can start to use it almost as a reminder that you're off track from your higher self, and use it as an invitation to do anything which gets you towards that. Okay, so effectively what you're doing is you're turning something which is intrinsically not really effective, a little bit disappointing, a blip on your emotional radar, into something meaningful and fulfilling. Okay, so you're actually getting back onto your rightful path, let's say, into your golden path. And so you're starting to shift your relationship with yourself by learning that when this pacifying strategy comes up, when the need comes up, that there is a deeper, higher purpose that is good for you, perhaps, but a little bit scary. And so it's shining a light on that. So appealing to your higher self can be an incredible way of shifting the way that you think about the need to pacify. So I kind of go back to what I said before, okay? People tend to overestimate what they can do in the short term and underestimate what they can do in the long term. Habits take about 30 days before you notice a shift. So you need 30 days worth of perseverance before you actually become aware that you've made an improvement. Most people don't make it to 30 days. They go back to their old habit because the need shouts quite loud at certain times. The alternative hasn't demonstrated itself yet to work. And so you go back to overeating or drinking or whatever it may be. So basically what I've tried to offer you are a few strategies that work in the moment, that give you the breathing space to allow the need to pass. And then I've offered you a couple of ways to expand your meaning, to shift the need in the first place by starting to fix the cause. But then ultimately, you need courage, you need inspiration, you need determination to do something different, okay? To rather than avoiding, to stare whatever it is that you're avoiding head on in the face and name it. It's okay that it's not satisfactory, but you cannot make progress until you know where you are today. You can't use a map until you know where you're currently located. So it's very important indeed to name that, to own it, to take responsibility for it, and then start to choose better ways to deal with that. I hope that gives you a few tools to get you on the way. If that isn't sufficient, well then, ask me, because clearly there is another layer behind this, which are your subconscious habits. Okay, they are things which are so habituated that you don't even know you're doing them anymore. The thought processes that underpin them are so far in the back of your mind that you're not even aware of them. And the first thing you notice is when you're already way off track. So if that's the case, then that is what hypnosis is fantastic for, because then you're starting to reshape the meaning attached to your current solution, the self-soothing strategy that doesn't quite work. You're starting to understand the basis, the underpinning of the need underneath it, and then you can apply resources that you weren't even aware of that are in other parts of your life to that. Because, of course, funnily enough, people tend to have self-soothing strategies in certain aspects of their life. They're very rarely universal. They tend to come up as solutions in certain circumstances or certain environments. And so there are always other circumstances and other environments where actually you're much stronger. And so it's simply a case of linking the strengths that you already have so that you no longer underestimate the progress that you can make in the long term. Instead, you stick at it, you keep going because you reshape your worldview. You reshape what is possible, what is your innate potential, and you go for that instead. And that's a voyage of wonderful discovery. That's a voyage of adventure, of amazement, of wonder, maybe even of awe. Can you imagine getting to a point of wonder and awe directly from a self-soothing strategy, an avoidance strategy that you were doing to excess? I mean, isn't that a gift, right? So basically, you can look at the problem as your route to understanding yourself, as to being a better you. The number of people, if you look, who would never ever take away the worst thing that ever happened in their life to them because it forced them to reappraise what they are. Okay, so there is always an opportunity in a problem. It just depends how you look at it. Yeah. All right, I hope that's useful. Thanks for watching. If it is, go check out my other videos. I've got quite a lot of them that are actually practical like this, and then I've got a whole lot which are more existential. And thanks for watching.